Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be breaking down the latest trailer for Loki Season 2. I know it's been a really long time since we've done content on the channel here. It's been quite a long time since we did our last video, and that was before the new year, and I've tried to get back onto the channel and recreate content once again, but of course each of the members of Nerdcast, we all were busy with our respective lives and we weren't able to tackle all the big news that was happening because we were all really busy on our respective ends. But finally, now with the break I'm able to utilize that time to be able to cover the latest, or maybe touch upon stuff that's happened prior that I haven't gotten to cover on the channel. But today, Haaresh will be doing a trailer breakdown like I did last year for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and hopefully, doing that here again for Loki Season 2. And I think without further ado, we'll just try and go over some key details or key events that happened in the trailer, give some Easter eggs and further info as to what we could expect or what's being shown to us in Loki Season 2. In the opening of the trailer, we are shown both Loki and Mobius entering a room where we are introduced to a new addition in the series, Obi, played by Ke-Huy Quan, who's best known for playing Short Round in Indiana Jones Temple of Doom. He also won an Oscar for the A24 movie that he starred in, being Everything Everywhere All at Once. The character that Ke-Huy Quan plays, called Obi, could actually stand for Ouroboros. Ouroboros is actually a circular symbol depicting a snake swallowing its own tail, and it's supposed to symbolize wholeness or infinity. In a way, you could say that the Ouroboros is almost symbolic of the sacred time, of this circular stream of time. Now, one thing I do want to point out is that if you see Loki's attire, it's pretty much the way he left off from Season 1. So this is kind of confirming this is most likely the first episode, and they're pretty much jumping right away and coming off of that finale, because he's wearing the same rolled up long sleeve shirt from the finale. He even has the sword harness, and he even has the exact same cut on his right arm. So that's a neat detail. Then all of a sudden, Loki's body starts to shift in and out. While this is going on, a weird string motif is visible where you can see parts of his body being stretched or like attached to one another like gum or like string. Both Mobius and Obi have a bit of a back and forth on what they just witnessed, and Obi says that this is time slipping. He also tells Mobius that this is impossible to recur within the TVA. I also think when they show in the trailer, and from what other breakdowns I've covered, so I am not taking credit for this, towards the later half of the trailer, we see Loki holding some sort of pocket watch of some sort, and it's speculation where it has a green and a red side to it. So I guess it's a device that helps stabilize or maybe shows signs of whether or not he can time slip at any moment, because there's a green and a red sign. So maybe the more the watch shows the red side, the more he's in danger of time slipping. The more it leans towards the green side, the more he's safe. We are shown Loki yet again time slipping from what appears to be a TVA interrogation room akin to something we saw in Season 1, and he time slips from that interrogation room to seemingly somewhere on Earth outside a sports outlet called Piranha Power Sports, and this outlet seems to be selling jet skis outside. So this is a bit of a wink and a nod to the character of Mobius, played by Owen Wilson. He talked with Loki about the fascination he had with the jet ski, and also how later one day he wanted to actually get on and ride a jet ski. So I guess we're gonna actually see that thing fully realized, which is honestly kind of sweet, and I'm kind of really excited for that. In addition, we also see Loki time slipping into a dimly lit TVA office where he sees a version of himself reading a TVA notebook with a monitor in the background displaying the sacred timeline. Now, I want to put a pin on that because we will touch upon that later. When I saw the time slipping effect, I couldn't help but go back and think of To the Spider-Verse and how certain Spider-Man, when they ended up on Miles' Earth, they started to glitch, and that was because of the fact they didn't belong on that Earth. So the more they spend time on Miles' Earth, and this could lead to the cells in their body starting to decay, and eventually it could kill them. Now, in the case of Loki, I think he's traveling to the same version of the TVA, but in two different points of time. One is the past TVA, the version of the TVA where Mobius is unaware of Loki or doesn't have any memory of Loki, because in Season 1 when we saw Loki, he was all like scared and he was trying to warn them about Kang, and Mobius is like, hey, slow down, are you an analyst, what's going on? And Loki's shocked, like as if, what the heck, how does he not know who I am? So I think this is the past TVA, and the present TVA is the one where most of the TVA crew knows Loki and are aware of him. In this trailer, we get shots of B-15, Casey, and Ravonna Renslayer. The character of B-15 was a TVA agent who was, going into timelines with other agents and helping them prune branched realities so that they can ensure the stability of the sacred timeline. And we also had Casey, who was the guy in the desk job and also the guy that had the plethora of Infinity Stones in his desk drawer, which he said just acted like paperweights. And we also have, of course, Ravonna Renslayer, who was a judge in the TVA. In season 1, we learned that the TVA, or as it's known, the Time Variance Authority, their job was to ensure the stability of the sacred timeline and making sure that no branched realities came about. And they did this because of the higher beings that they serve, being the timekeepers. However, towards the end of the series, it was revealed that the timekeepers were fake. They were just these robotic puppets being orchestrated by a mysterious figure. And we also learned that TVA employees are just variants of themselves, because we learned B-15 through Sylvie recovers her memories, goes around and starts to tell other TVA agents, hey, listen, we are variants that are abducted from our timelines to serve the TVA. And in the season finale, if I'm not mistaken, B-15, to convince her agents, she takes one of the agents to a school where we see a variant of Ravonna Renslayer, who's a school teacher. In the background behind B-15, you can make a certificate that says Rebecca Tormenate. This is the name of this Renslayer variant. However, this is actually an Easter egg to one of Ravonna Renslayer's many aliases in Marvel Comics, that being Rebecca Tormenate, and the name Tormenate also being a nod to another one of Ravonna Renslayer's comic book aliases, being the Terminatrix. With us being shown these three characters, I think this is hinting towards us maybe exploring the origins of these characters and who they were before they were abducted from their timeline, because we see B-15 in some sort of dress, maybe as like an undercover kind of mission, because she appears to be maybe in the same sort of area that Mobius and Loki are in for this particular movie premiere for the Zaniac, which is like an Easter egg to a very obscure Marvel Comics character by that exact same name of the Zaniac, who appeared in a Thor comic, Thor issue 319 from 1982. Also see another shot of her in what appears to be a hospital. Maybe this was her prior life before being abducted into the TVA, where she was a doctor, perhaps, because we can see the time door behind her, and maybe this is just before she's about to get abducted. And we also see a shot of Casey in this trailer where he looks dirtied up, man, and there's also two other people behind him, and he appears to be in this very tight kind of space. I think he's maybe escaping from somewhere, and in that escape he was abducted. We were shown a lot more snippets of Ravonna Renslayer, and I think that was done intentionally because she is a bigger chess piece in this story, considering her connection with a specific someone. Jumping off from that point, we see one of the locations we'll be visiting in the series, which is the Midway Plaisance, and I think this particular location is actually really vital to the story, because we see Loki and Mobius entering this place, and they are watching this scientist unveil his new time device, which we know is a Kang variant because he's being played by Jonathan Majors. This version of Kang being called Victor Timely, as we can even see in the subtitles for the trailer. This was the post-credit scene for Quantumania, where we did see Victor Timely unveiling his new time device and giving a little speech relating to how we all revolve around time and how we could possibly manipulate it and even shape it.
Time is everything. It shapes our lives, but perhaps we can shape it.
We see Loki in fear while Mobius is still trying to figure out what's the big deal with Victor Timely and why he's a so-called threat. Now, I think we're going to actually be spending a lot more time in this location, and I also think that there are going to be two other big players that are going to be entering this location. Now, one of the other players that I think is going to be in this same spot is Ravonna Renslayer, because we see one quick shot of her. She's preparing to fight someone, and she's holding maybe a prototype version of a TVA weapon, perhaps. And if you see her get up and all the other shots of Ravonna Renslayer we see throughout this trailer, she's in the exact same sort of getup throughout. I think Ravonna Renslayer here, I think she's tasked with finding this Kang for a particular reason. And why I think that's the case, because in season 1, Miss Minutes gives Ravonna Renslayer information that was only meant for her, and even though Ravonna says this is not what I asked for, I remember Miss Minutes saying something along the lines of he wants you to have it, referring to someone wanting Ravonna to have this particular information that's only meant for her. I think we all know that the he Miss Minutes is referring to is he who remains, and that information specifically is the location of Victor Timely. And I think the reason why he gave Ravonna Renslayer the task of finding Victor Timely is that he wants this version of Kang to take over as his replacement and for Victor Timely to assume control of the sacred timeline. However, I don't think that's gonna be as simple as planned, but I will touch upon that later. In the midst of Loki and Mobius investigating Victor Timely and Ravonna Renslayer possibly trying to find Victor Timely as well, I think Sylvie is also going to be in this same location. We see Sylvie in some sort of room where she's taking out her blade and she's going to kill someone. In the background of that scene, we can spot mannequins that look exactly like the mannequins that appear in the scene of Ravonna Renslayer as she's taking out that weapon of hers. So I think these two scenes, while not necessarily connected, are taking place in the same room. Make out a figure that's on the ground. While the figure is very blurry and you really can't tell who it is. At first I was thinking it's Loki because we see shots of him wearing his like TVA detective jacket, but I also think this could be Victor Timely. Somehow or rather, she somehow got information that there is a Kang variant and I gotta stop him. Maybe her intention of finding Victor Timely is to kill him and end this cycle of Kangs from ever coming about, but I think that's not gonna be as easy as intended because we have Loki and Mobius and we have Ravonna Renslayer and we have Sylvie now in the mix. So I think that's gonna be really interesting seeing these particular people all in search of Kang, and maybe this is sort of a race against time situation. These three people all have different intentions and they might not gel well with one another. That can cause for some really interesting chaos to happen. Also, to support my point about Sylvie being in the midway play songs, we see this green blast of energy that sends Loki flying. In this scene, you can spot that above Loki says a sign called Ferris wheel. Now, if you go back to the shot from earlier as Loki and Mobius are entering the midway play songs, and we kind of get this upward camera angle of the location, if you spot in the background and really zoom in the background you can make out the sign Ferris wheel, which is the exact same sign we see here, and the green blast of energy that knocks Loki away, I think is Sylvie using her magic from last season. Like Loki's all have magic, and their particular kind of magic, which I guess is trickster magic, is through the green color as a way to color code or like a way to distinct themselves from the other sorcerers, because we have Wanda's chaos magic, which is red. Also with like Agatha Harkness's kind of magic, it's a purple color because of her Salem witch kind of powers. I think it goes without saying we should really touch upon the big player in this show being Victor Timely, one of the many variants of Kang that we see in this trailer. Now, I'm not well versed in this character, so I'm using Marvel.com website. I do have a page for his comic origin. I'll read his comic book origin so that not only do I learn something new, but hopefully you, the audience, learn something new as well. In a story within Avengers Annual Issue 21, 1967, called The Puzzle, readers learn Kang's history with Timely. After Earth's mightiest heroes defeated Kang in his debut issue, Avengers 1963, Issue 8, the villain went back in time till January 1st, 1901, and took on the name Victor Timely. Under this pseudonym, Kang founded Timely and set himself as an inventor and industrialist with specializations in technology and robotics. In secret though, Kang built Chronopolis at the same location as, though out of sync in the time stream with Timely the town, that effectively rendered Chronopolis hidden within a paradox and undetectable to all. Kang presided over Timely for several decades and served as its town's first mayor. During Avengers The Terminatrix objective in 1993, Ravonna Renslayer, Kang's long-time love interest, attempted to expand Chronopolis, forcing Earth's mightiest heroes to intervene and putting them into direct contact with Kang as Timely in the town's early years. At the end of the story, Renslayer and Kang rekindled their relationship and she began living in Timely under the name Rebecca Tormenting. After having read this origin, I feel like this supports my theory of Ravonna and Kang, particularly this Victor Timely variant. We will be seeing them spend some time together, considering, like I said earlier, how Ravonna has a specific connection to someone. That connection is with Kang, because in the comics, Ravonna Renslayer is Kang's longtime love interest. So I think she is going to see Victor Timely and also take him to the Citadel at the end of time, because we do see she's in the void, because there is this shot of her in some sort of field. She's looking up at something and it's emitting this purple glow in the void, which is pretty much this trash planet for all things that have been pruned by the TVA. We know that Allied is this being that can consume these things as well. What I find interesting is that to be in the void, you have to be pruned. We could be seeing both Renslayer and Kang pruned together. Allied sees Ravonna Renslayer. Allied might actually consume her, but maybe Allied sees Victor Timely, who awfully looks a lot like He Who Remains, so he pretty much gives them the rite of passage to enter the Citadel, because we do see the Citadel yet again, and compared to last season, we see most of its structure is now starting to crumble away, and in the background we can see the multiverse yet again looking way more chaotic compared to last season. Before we cut away from this shot, I can also point out that just down at this shot you can kind of notice this sort of figure that looks like he's sitting. I think this is the dead corpse of He Who Remains. In the finale of Loki, when Sylvie goes for that blow, he's in his chair and he pretty much dies on his chair, and I think the way the figure looks, from what you can make out of the figure in this shot of the trailer and perhaps put him side by side with He Who Remains, it looks almost if not identical, the same pose. So maybe this contributes to the fact that Victor Timely is He Who Remains' sort of replacement, and he's going to be the one that is now in charge of the secret timeline. However, don't think that's going to turn out as simple as you think it might. I think it's because of the fact that he's secretly going to transform or somehow succumb to becoming a violent Kang variant and a bad Kang variant, and we could be seeing that through the relationship that Ravonna Renslayer and Kang have with one another, with a lot of the Kang stuff that we're seeing in this trailer. I'm just really excited to see what's going on with him and what are the kinds of moves that either Victor Timely or maybe whatever other Kang that pops up in this series is going to do, because I feel like they really butchered Kang in Quantumania. So in this series, with us getting a variant of Kang or possible variants, I feel like they have the opportunity to redeem that character and really re-establish the threat level he possesses. That'll be exciting to see. And lastly, before concluding the breakdown section, I think Loki and the other supporting characters like Mobius, Casey, B-15, Obi, and possibly Sylvie as well, we all come together to possibly try and save the timeline or try and save the multiverse perhaps, because there's promotional art for Loki season 2 where it shows us all 5 of these characters being Loki, Mobius, Casey, B-15, and Obi minus Sylvie. The lower part of that art, you can see text that says the TVA has to change and it has to start now. These group of characters are probably going to revolt against the TVA, or perhaps try forge a new kind of path for the TVA and preserving the timeline, or somehow or rather allowing for branch realities to exist and not having to prune them away. And another thing that supports my theory, we see a shot of Mobius in some sort of TVA spacesuit to possibly control or stabilize some sort of timeline, because we see this timeline that he's entering, one hand of the timeline, so like on the right hand side you can see that it's sort of binded together and it almost looks like it's a piece of rope, and there's like some sort of machine holds this timeline together, and the left hand side of this timeline is spurting out almost like sort of like a flower of sorts, but it is spurting out. Funny enough, we did see this timeline earlier in the trailer, like I mentioned during the time slipping section of the breakdown, when Loki sees that version of himself in the TVA reading that notebook. This timeline that's being displayed in the monitor is the exact same timeline Mobius is heading towards. Another piece of evidence in the later half of the trailer, Loki and Sylvie in some sort of location fighting off a ton of TVA agents together, and they're trying to stop them from interfering with some sort of device. When some TVA agent goes and touches that device, Sylvie immediately pulls them away from it. So perhaps these group of rebels are going to try and come up with some sort of way to save the multiverse, quote unquote, and the TVA is probably going to know this and they're going to want to try and stop them. It's going to be quite an interesting thing to see unravel in this series, to see whether or not they can actually stabilize and save the multiverse. As for my overall thoughts on Loki season 2, I think it looks really promising, and it's one of the Marvel projects that I'm really looking forward to the most, and I'm really excited to see what they do from here and what they're going to want to tackle and explore in this season. From the way the last season ended and just the show overall, I think Loki season 1, or the Loki series at the time before it was announced that season 2 was coming, I really loved that show a lot. I loved its sci-fi aesthetic, very retro sci-fi aesthetic, and I just loved a lot of the characters in the show, and particularly one of the many aspects of the show that I liked was the titular character of Loki, played by Tom Hiddleston, and the fact that he really got to show off his acting chops. And one scene I recommend you to watch is the interrogation room scene, particularly when Loki is pretty much watching a recap of his life, and you just see the display of emotions and the amount of emotions he's conveying as he's seeing footage of himself throughout the MCU, and it's just so versatile and so touching. The fact that he's able to swiftly convey these emotions, his facial expressions whilst conveying those emotions is really great. And at that point in the series where I was like, wow, I'm watching something of quality that has been made with a lot of care and with a lot of seriousness put into it. So to see more of that here, see more Loki of what they're going to tackle, and where season 1 left off with that shocking reveal of Kang's presence now being at the forefront, and what they're going to tackle with us seeing Sylvie and how is she going to be involved in the story, and all the other characters we've seen in season 1 coming forward into this season, and what they're going to explore. It remains a mystery, and what the actual plot of the story is going to be is also the mystery. And also to see more multiverse shenanigans, or probably more of the effects of the multiverse being displayed, is something I'm also looking forward to as well. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I know this took a lot longer than I expected it to be, and I guess this was because of the fact that it's been 7 months since the last video, and only officially now just made this one, so it's a lot to get used to refamiliarize myself and also get back into the whole content creation and YouTube setting of it all. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and also click the bell icon, as that will notify you when a video of ours is up, and also comment below if you want to. Take care, love you all, and see you guys in the next one.